Hey guys, Mr. Gucci here, and I'm just giving you a quick video to help guide you in the lab conclusion writing process. All right, so real quick, a lab conclusion is actually a very important part of the lab because this is the part of the lab where you summarize everything you've done in your lab. Briefly, what you were trying to figure out, what the results were, all right, explaining those results briefly, if anything went wrong in your lab and how to fix it, and what future research would you do on this lab. In fact, when most scientists write lab reports, and when I'd read lab reports, I would just flip to the end of the report just to read a brief summary of what they've covered. And only if that summary was interesting or seemed relevant to me would I go back and I actually read through all the data and procedures that the person did. So, lab conclusions a really great way to just summarize your work to anyone who would just want to very briefly get like the Cliff Notes version of it. Okay, now let's walk through this. The first part of this conclusion is the easiest part, and that is just to restate the objective of your lab. Let the person who's reading this know what exactly you were doing in this lab. And for that, we can just go back and look at the very first part. The objective was to use the individual properties of four substances to separate them from a mixture, producing four trays, each containing only one substance. Now, don't just copy and paste this. So that I know that you understand what's going on, I want you to phrase this in your own words. So something to the effect of it, and don't copy this either. The purpose of this lab was to separate a mixture of four unique substances using their individual properties. Great. All right. T's. I'm not an English teacher. All right. So good. All right. This is simple. This is a sentence. All right. The next is where you state your results. And this again is also short, where you would just briefly say to what degree you met the objective. All right. The objective here was to separate a mixture of four unique substances. Well, I would say, and I'm just going to make this up. All right. We were able to successfully separate out the purple powder. And again, don't mind my spelling. The black and the black powder. Only some of the white flakes could be recovered, and none of the white powder was successfully recovered. Spell check. All right. Again, you're not going into detail here about why you were successful in one aspect and not in another. Okay. You're going to explain that down here. Okay. But for the results section, you keep it short. It is one or two sentences max. You just briefly say, we were able to, or the objective was met, or part of it was met, or the thing we were testing failed. All right. Keep it short and sweet. Okay. Next, you're going to do explaining the results. This is where you go into some detail, all right, where you just briefly summarize, hey, here's why we were, for example, successful in removing the purple powder and the black powder, but here's also why we had trouble recovering the white flakes and the white powder. I'm going to pause this so I don't, you don't watch me suffer, typing very, very slowly, all right, and I'll unpause it in a bit. Okay, so here's a sample of explaining your results. This will probably be like two, maybe three short sentences where you just explain why you succeeded or failed in certain aspects of your lab. So in this case, the black powder was easily separated because it was magnetic, and exposing it to a magnet pulled out most of the black powder easily. The white flakes were removed manually with tweezers, but because some of the flakes were very small, some were lost or missed. See, again, you were explaining what you did and how it succeeded and how it failed. Okay, now everyone's lab procedure was or outcome was slightly different, so don't write what I wrote here. Write your own thing. All right. Now, as I mentioned repeatedly in the lab, it is very likely that something went wrong while you were doing this lab. And I said, don't worry. Just keep in mind what went wrong and be prepared to talk about it in your lab report. Well, this is where you talk about it, okay? If some mistake happened, write about it here. Tell me what went wrong, how it affected your results, all right? And how you might fix it in the future, okay? This is key here too, all right? I want you to make sure that you tell me how it affected your results. If a little tiny mistake happened, like, oh, you forgot to put your shoes on and you had to run to your locker to get your shoes on, that's not really an error that I care about. It didn't affect your results at all. So focus on things that affected your results. Let me come up with a sample error right now. So here's a common error that came up. Most students did not have time to recover the white powder, and the reason was there just wasn't time to boil away or evaporate the water given the time frame that we had. So in future experiments, it might be recommended to use as little water as possible so as to shorten the evaporation process. Other errors that I saw included pouring the water down the drain. All right. Um, Getting black powder stuck to the magnet. All right. Wet purple powder left in the beaker. You didn't get all the purple powder out, okay? So again, just explain what went wrong in this and how you might try and fix it in the future, okay? The last step is, of course, future research. Now, this is not necessarily a long one, a long section, but it's going to require a little bit of thinking, right? It comes down to this. Whenever scientists do labs, that's what they get paid to do. They get paid to run experiments. And if there's no more experiments to do, well, they don't have a job anymore in many cases. So when writing a lab report, it's important to contemplate what future research would you want to do into this field. And in the case of this lab report, I want you to think about how could you expand or improve this lab, either to make it more difficult or more rewarding to students. What other mixture separation principles would you like to test? Keep it focused on this lab's objective, which is mixture separation, and give me some ideas. All right, here are some possible ideas. All right, and you can maybe source these, but I want you to maybe develop them a bit more. All right, include a liquid in the mixture. All right, for example, maybe you had to recover H2O from this. A lot of people boiled the water away, but what if the water was part of the mixture and you had to recover it? Okay, so include a liquid in the mixture. All right. Here's another thing to think about. All right. Can we use numbers to measure how successful we were in separation? All right. So a lot of you were just separating the substances out and putting them back into little piles, but we didn't really know who was the best at separating. Is there a way to find out, oh, this person separated, this person recovered 95% of their black powder, but this group over here recovered 98% of their black powder. So they did better. All right. So how can we use numbers? All right. Or which process is the fastest? All right. How could we make this process faster? That's not like, that's not unsafe. There's a lot of chemical processes that you really need to speed up in order for them to be done efficiently in order to make money, selling the stuff that you're making. So, in short, guys, this is your lab conclusion. Do your best on this. We will go over it tomorrow in class and I'll answer any questions, right? I'll also look at it and leave notes on it tonight online. All right. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.